Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining. Today we want to start discussing about components, the core concept of component, what is used for, what problem solve, and so many things about component. But we're going to start from the, let's say from the basic and then intermediate and advanced, and then we're going to start that same concept. We're going to start applying that same concept to Caspian framework, which is currently I'm going to talk about. So the core concept of component is the reusability, um, scope, and so many others. But the concept start growing in early 2018 when React start to migrating from class to functions in JSX terms. No? So when components becomes more popular in this case, well, people start to adapting more and more because components were get more focus on function and with how functions it's very small chunk of code, so you can handle it more efficiently. There is no because before was class approach. There you have to need to declare a property and then you need to add the function register, use this keyword, all those stuff. Them. So I think when function approach come in early 2018, React start to introduce, people start to catching up more get in love with this kind of function approach. No? Okay, so we're going to start talking a small concept of what React introduced in component. So let's say this is a component. This other one going to be another component too. So let's say this is component A and this is component B. So as you can see, the component A doesn't know anything about the component B. The implementation, everything what B have, let's say property passing, all those, A doesn't know. So A cannot know what B have until you start to introduce B to A. So the way that works is you start passing props. In this case, props mostly they know that like say when you are passing arguments to a function. So these props it's the arguments that you are passing to the function. So that way React start working. And the good part is that the component A it's called what you have. Let's say you have declared any variable variable, it's not going to leak in other functions, which is very useful when we are talking about, because remember JavaScript is almost it's global functions with Windows and things like that. So React in this case JSX solved that problem. So sure, solving the issue when you start getting scope with this function. So it's very useful because you can declare how many variable you want, function you want in the functions inside a function. Yeah, it's that way. So if you have any variables declared in the component B, that going to belongs in that's going to belongs to B. Okay, so this way, in this case, React introduced this way of working and they start abandon the class approach. The migration start getting more popular because you just have one little piece of function and then you can have all the capability of JSX. No? Okay, so Why I'm talking about React component? Because PulsePoint almost is the same, but React, when they start designing the component, there was an issue, a gap that should be solved in this case. So, all right, the component we already know is a function, and function should be called by invoking. So, in this case, the function A should be invoked by a function call. So, so when you call to the function, this function is invoked, and then it's going to return the content which we are returning from the function, which makes logically correct in this case. So, okay, but when you call the function and how you're going to update the DOM, it's different in this case because remember calling the function, it's returning the value or it's returning the HTML, but now how you going to update to the DOM? You need an identifier to the DOM, or in this case, a live DOM in, in the web browser. So they solve using what they call reconciliation and virtual DOM. So this tool, in this case, it's a piece of um, technology that start like let's say playing the big role in this case. So in this case, the virtual DOM, it's the responsible to translating the changes what changes should be done when the function calls, and then this is going to pass to the I think that is I don't know. Anyway, the idea is that okay, the reconciliation is going to grab the tree of virtual DOM, then it's going to reconcile with the live DOM. So this core idea, as you can see, got some steps in this case. So the function call have a step, and then the function call goes to the virtual DOM, make the change, what should be done, and then virtual DOM call the reconciliation, and the reconciliation which going to do, it's going to update the virtual the live DOM. So this two step is one of the core feature of React, which sometimes it's get quite complicated when the project start to grow. Because remember, when your project start to grow, the problem becomes that the changes it's going to be done in different section of the application. So you are calling to a different functions, and sometimes the function inside have another function call. So it's going to start calling another function, another function, another function. So this is going to create a like say a three function call. So it's going to provoke like say a little bit of time of consume to the change in the lifelong. You're going to see this in mostly in larger projects, not like say just to do application or a smaller one. Then. So those not going to have so much issue, but the logical one, then larger projects which have many uh, um, React components. No? Okay, so I'm introducing you to this because I want to talk about what PulsePoint solve and what the core concept of PulsePoint in this case. So let's talk about PulsePoint because Caspian is using PulsePoint um, under the hood. So the concept of PulsePoint is almost the same, but different. It's that PulsePoint doesn't have any function calls in this case. So it's live DOM and the HTML. So the live DOM have the HTML, and in this case, PulsePoint is going to extract the variables from the live DOM. So what it's going to do is going to identify in the live DOM where it's my var or things like that with mustache. So the mustache is the identifier, same like React does, the identifiers. But as you can see, it's working with the live DOM direct. There is no virtual DOM, there is no reconciliation. And as you can see, when events changes, when event changes, this going to update direct to the live DOM. There is no reconciliation between our virtual DOM tree. I was got that because as you can see, PulsePoint is working direct with live DOM, so it's going to the identifier where it's located, and that the identifier is going to um, receive the updated version of the HTML or the information which we are updating. So this is very useful when you are building high performance application because how I know how React works, I can say the weakness of React when you are start scaling larger application. So I start thinking if there a way we can create a high performance application using the virtual DOM. And in this experiment, I introduce PulsePoint and I see when I start creating larger components, and this gets more larger, more components, there is no um, taking like say, delays to update the DOM because how there is no information to back to fill, so it's updated there. Next thing, what is good, the part of React, which as you can see, the variables are belongs to the component itself. What PulsePoint does is that when you send this as attribute to your component, this block, in this case, HTML tag, the block gets scored. What means is that all the um, all the attributes is reactive in this case, which are contained, which contains this going to belongs only to this scope. So this way, you are not going to leak information to component B in this case. So we're going to call this a component A. So component B doesn't know anything about the component A. So component B doesn't know and component A doesn't know until you share, same as React does when you share props. the component. Same concept as React, but in this case using PulsePoint. So we're going to start talking a little about this approach, and we're going to build a small little part of components and introduce you to the new website, which is Maddex. We're going to start discussing to introducing. So having that in mind, we're going to start with the before created in the first stream. So let's get in. Okay, so okay, this was created before in the first stream. So what I want to do is to show you how to update your project, your Caspian project, if you want to update. So what I want to do is just protect this layout to be updated, and I'm going to make a small changes here, and I'm going to, let's say I'm going to put hello as this. And here I'm going to protect this. As you can see, that hello is going to get rid when it's get updated. So I'm going to protect only. So see, uh, okay. I don't want to update the index, but I want to update the HTML layout. Even if I have made changes, it's going to be overridden. So APX cast update project. So all those information is going to be here in this case, in the documentation, and CLI commands, and here you got the information where it is here. So we're going to use that, okay, and then say yes, and I want you to see that this information, the version is going to be updated with the latest version. In this case, I don't want to accept any of the common options. Okay, as you can see by itself, it's gone to update to the latest, and even it's update the layout, but it didn't touch the index HTML because the index HTML is in the excluded file. So it's already know when to update and what to update in this case. So that is the core idea. And even you can see that the main that file have been updated and the request in this case. So the Caspian utils get updated. Okay, I just want to show that you can do that in Caspian, and that way you are already know what changes is coming in this case, and if you're going to accept those changes, because we are already trying to not broke anything because we are in alpha version currently, but with the time it's going to start moving forward. So when we start moving forward, we have this command to confirm that what changes are coming, it's not going to be breaking the code which we are already developing in this case. So I do want to show that. So let's start with new project. In this case, it's going to be npx. Yeah. So we're going to start introducing what is Maddex and only Tailwind CSS. It's very important when you're going to start working with Maddex UI. We're going to you need to accept Tailwind CSS. TypeScript, no. MCP, no. Prisma no. That's how it is. Okay. Okay, while it's downloading, let's discuss some quite information, useful information, what get updated. Okay, so in this case, it was this one. Okay, let's say children. Okay, this is very important topic. This function, this specially function is very useful when you're going to inject HTML or JavaScript in your DOM, and then it's going to be use any kind of elements and um, a certain pattern of for a specific task in this case. So it's very useful. We're going to see in action, and we're going to see the benefits which brings and for your development task. We didn't do this last time. What next? Okay. Okay. Yes. We made a mistake. Oh, here. Let me fix. Okay. First thing first, when you install your project, npm run this. It's very recommended because this is going to confirm you that the project, which is the current version of the project, is running as expected. So this is very important. Okay, so what we're going to do in this case, it's going to start talking about components. Get that space. Okay, so the first idea of components is reusability. So we're going to create a small component, then we're going to start complicating quite a bit about the component, but we're going to start discussing about talking about the reusability, that you can create a component and then reuse it anywhere in the application. So in this case, I'm going to create a component which I'm going to name. In this case, maybe you can use the SRC or the app. I'm going to create direct to the app because okay, I'm going to name um, button.type. So as you can see, the core concept of React in Python, in this case in Caspian, is the same. You create your component and then it becomes a reusable component. So I say Caspian com, and in this case, I'm going to get the snippet, and then I'm going to start using this component. So as you can see, then we can come, set up button, and then click me, and I'm currently using in the home page. But then you can create a users row, in this case users, and index.html. So I'm going to reuse that same component to my users. So what I'm going to do is button, and I'm going to say click me users. So I'm going to save here, and in home, I'm going to create a row. In this case, I already have the users auto completion, which is very nice. Uh, go to users. Okay, I have the component. Here you can prove that the reusability of components is very similar, almost the same as React does, because there is no difference when you are using JSX to get get reusable components. So the core idea of components is that you can reuse those components. And the good part is how it's HTML you can use inside or any section or part of the area. So let's say I have a div, and inside this div I want a button. So you can say this class, this have div, let's say oh, uh, 500 space. Inside the div, I have the button, and then I have the information what I'm sending and the components to is returning. And as you can see, there is no complex um, building the component. It's a function call. The function receive props, because remember this is like say, a spread in React. They say spread they call it, because you send in any amount of like say arguments to the function. What the function is going to do, it's going to pass to the attributes, and so this is going to return the div. And if you see in this case, sure enough, we have a div name, component, button, and then applicant. What if I want this component behave like a button? And when I say now, you can see it's a button component, not a div container. So this is the benefit of reusing components. So if I come back to form, in this case, how I am reusing the same component, which what's going to happen is that the button is going to be displayed. So that is the core concept of reusing components. So now let's start talking about component scope. So the core idea of component scope is that when you're going to use or pass property to the component from next side of the components, things get quite complicated in some terms because you want to send information to this component and you want reactivity to this component from so and so on. So in this case, I'm going to have in home row, I'm going to build two components, easy as that, but I'm going to reuse the same button. Okay, let's move this. So as I mentioned before, this is just for activity because when you want to create component, you should go with the Python approach. But what I'm going to do to build fast about the div, this container is going to become a component. So I have TC component, which is going to be my card, and then I'm going to have a card item, so on. So now I have card item and card. Okay. Now, as you can see, the scope between these two should be shared because they are in the same place. Okay, so what I want to do is create a script that in this case from home. So as you can see, the intention when you are starting building in the same application is going to have issue. So we need to get rid of. So now what you have to do is that when you want to share information, you're going to start building in the parent and then you're going to share to, to the children. In this case, this is going to become a children component and this is children component. What is going to happen is that this is going to return a component. So this is the main idea of scoping. So what happening inside here is that we're going to create the card that file which is going to return uh, okay. The other one was card. Okay. Now we have card component and then we have a card component which is the real component and we have card item, card item component which it's returning a component. Okay, so here when we go to car, here, let's get rid of this. Okay, we want to create a script because it's going to have a cons and then home Inside here, we're going to have a theta, which is going to call the count. Let's name it count. Okay. Okay, let's say what we say. Yeah. Oof. My bad. My bad. Okay, my bad. Same like React does. Maybe you can get confused because, as you can see, in a single root component, root HTML tag element. So here we have, as you can see, the card count, it starts from 0. We're going to put in 2 here, if everything was correct. And as you can see, the count here you're going to put, let's say P, and let's put global, and let's put the count value to the global. And the name, it's count, and the card have count. There is no sharing information between because the card components have its own scope and the global component scope it have its own scope too. So the information or the good way or the introduction is that these components are scope. Okay, so you already know when it's scope and things like that. So what I'm going to do to show more clearly, and here is going to inside component item. This is going to have another one too, and then the first. Say, here we go. So okay, work. All of the components they are it's scope by itself. So there is no leak information and things like that. So that is the good part of PulsePoint because that giving you the control that when you declare variables inside this div or inside this scope, it's going to belongs only to this component, not to the card item or things like that. As you can see, the name does not matter because I have count, I have already, and even if I put a button which is going to update the global count in this case, and click, and then you want to set count and count plus 1, and so this way you have a button which is going to update only the global scope because it's where it belongs. Okay, so Now we want to start talking about Maddex. What Maddex is and what problems solve. Okay, Maddex it's same like Shadcn does. There is no quite different because using Tailwind CSS and um, the styling section and Shadcn color styling. So you can easily install Maddex when you are using Caspian. So here's the information. We go to documentation, we go to installation, and remember this is the URL which you can go. We got the global and the local. So you're going to start with the installation. It's very easy to just copy npm I global. This means you are installing globally. Now we already have Maddex installed. So we're going to install now button card and we're going to delete these components from here. Yes. That yeah, there. Okay, go away. Goodbye. All right. Now we're going to start installing. We're going to start installing the first component. Copy paste of VS Code. Well, I copy this, copy, and just paste. Yes. Maddex card. As you can see, it start installing all dependencies needed, installing icons, installing all those information. So now I can come and start using, let's say, stop and run. Now I can install and use the button component from Max because as you can see, I install button and card. So I say button and now click me. Now I get styling out of the box because the global CSS that Shadcn used to. So now I have variants because you said variants, and then I have options which you can choose from. So I said destructive, save, and I got click me, and that documentation is you just come, go to button, and here we go. You got information how it's installed. And so the next thing, what if I want to use an icon inside the button? Well, the easiest part is to go to the PP icons, this page, website, because these are huge amount of icons. So you can use any icons from here, as you can see. So same idea, same I global PP icons. Go to the documentation. You're going to see. So PP icons global install already npx PP icons in this case. Add, let's say what you want, the search icon. So you install the search icon, and now when you come search icon, instead of click me, now you have icons. And if you want, just change. This is going to be outline, and then the size is going to be icon. There you have it. What next? Ooh, option we have, I think. So as you can see, one command installation from Maddex, and you have um, we're still working on this component library because let's see. Mhm. Very useful. One command installation, paste, install, and copy, import component, import component. Let's see if something else goes wrong or what. Okay, some things goes wrong. Looks like it's not. Okay, as you can see, some of the components maybe have issue. It's going to be solved because this is the first look of Maddex. But the important is going to let's see what next. This one because this is first look. Yeah. Oof, that I never was waiting. Okay, we got budget now. Okay, let's start working with budget. Let's see what. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's working. As you can see, budget is working. Um, it's in early stage. It's first um, alpha version. Sure, it's going to find out some issue to solve. But we already see the potential of installing one command installation, and you're going to start using, importing the components, and well, they are going to get fixed because same as the others ones, like say the card, maybe it's some of these, maybe they have some issue too. Let's investigate. Okay, so let's see if the dialog have any issue to okay. Okay, now open. Wow, the dialog is working as expected. As you can see, you just install the component and you can start using. And as I said before, it's reusable. You can go to any row, let's say user row, and you're going to display this dialog, import, 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 import. And now when we go to users, the components are already there, close. So, all right, next thing, next. What if I want to have a composition component? Because composition components, what it does is just wrap a component and return the component. And this way, you don't need to have all this information the way we are having here. So let's create a small piece of composition component so you can understand what, because this is real pattern composition component. So we're going to create, again, the component directory. So what we're going to do is return the just the component. So this way we can reuse and we have only a single line of code instead of all the information. So I went to my dialog.html, which is going to have and import this information. Okay. So we're going to save this information and now we're going to take a component and then render the HTML file, save. All right. Now let's go home, save. As you can see, there is no information, but what if I come and say my dialog, and let's see if that working as expected. Okay, we got information now. Voila. Well, as you can see, composition component, PulsePoint got you covered. Because composition component in React is that the component which we are creating is a wrapper of a complex UI components. As you can see, I don't want to copy paste all the time this dialog in my UI. I just want a composition component which is going to receive a props, maybe the inner like child, things like that. And let's say I'm going to pass the child here, and which is going to have the name of the button. So we have that ability to. So we're going to say open dialog form. So we are creating here. We are sending the child now. So we're going to come and capture the child, pass children. So we're going to get from her props, get children, which is, so we need these children. So we come to my dialog. So in this case, this is going to be the children. Okay, we already have here the children. Oh my gosh. Okay, just pass the children. That's that. Okay, same like React does. No difference when you are sharing information. You are sending the props to the component, to custom component, and then you are directing to your custom UI design. So this is your custom UI design. And then you are importing one single line, say, and pass the information, and it's work. So all this information you want to find in PulsePoint, sincere, because PulsePoint is designed where how React works. There is no much difference because all the information, as you can see, components, overview, how it's work, all this information, and component props, how you can pass properties. But under the hood, Caspian using PulsePoint. So there is no need to introducing this PP component thing in the div tag, things like that, because Caspian already have a treatment for that. And now, PulsePoint, when it receives the HTML, it receives in the format which it's waiting for. So it start working in synchronized way. And as you can see, when I clicking click to the button, there is no server call because we're going to start talking about RPC in next video. Um, but I click here, as you can see, it's local. It's in the client side. It's not sending information to maintain the state to the backend. In this case, Python just provide the information and PulsePoint start working on the information what Python says. So this way you have the good part of logic of Python and the good part of PulsePoint. So you can work this way. As you can see, you can have very complex user interface like this one, like this search. This is very complex UI, but you already you can search. Let's say switch, and that component is the command. As you can see, the installation of command is almost the same. Just one command install, and then you start working because here you have more information. If you want, you set Control J, you got information. You search billing. Um, right. Okay, so sheet it's very good too. Yeah. Oh yes. One command installation. I think this is working properly. It's easy to install. Um, uh, the example users. Okay, import. This is quite easy to implement. Import, import, import. Explore this to get little space. Okay, easy as that. As you can see, and here you can, it's HTML. You can pass the button component here. Let's say the button component, which we want to button, cancel, variant, outline, and you get the button component. And let's say when I click to the button, you want to close that. All those activities you can do right enough because you got the open and close and so on, so on. Okay. This is almost Shadcn component. Let's go to the Shadcn side. Components. Here you have, let's search for sheet, click, same idea, no difference. Dialog, open, and dialog, open, sheet, open, easy as that. And the good part is that the code, you own it. You can modify, you can do whatever you want. First, you got the global, which have all the styling in it, because you can style it how you look at it. The library, in this case, I call it lib, inside we got Maddex. Maddex have the information of the component. So if you want to review the sheet component, how it was implemented, you can come and start tweaking or start looking at the code, how it was implemented, and how it's working. As you can see, it's quite HTML. Okay, and here is the implementation, how it was being used in the PulsePoint side. And the information it's right on your hand, so you can use use it to get more information about it. Um, so on. Okay, so is there any question which maybe I can answer? Well, if you have any doubts, well, um, it's time to ask. So before closing this clip. Any? Okay, next thing what I do want to mention that you have the teaming, here are the information, and you can go, here's a good part of the Caspian explain. Here's the next one where you can go to see. I think I want to add one because it is, I think it's missing. Okay, the dark mode, if you want to change to dark mode, things like that, here is information. Okay. The next thing is, as you can see, the good part is the navigation. It's very snappy, fast, because as you can know, Caspian is using fast API and under the ground. So what is happening is that the fast API is asking away. So it's very fast in this case. So there is no waiting long running like others. I think Next.js have this issue. When you click a button, it's a little while to starting populating React components in the live DOM. So how I mentioned before, that is the reconciliation working under the hood. So okay, so if there are any question, you can ask or you can leave your comments if you are maybe curious about Caspian. How it can help you to build very fast UI using Python because as you can see, Python is who controlling everything and PulsePoint is who receiving what Python decide to send. So this way you have your UI section in this case, which is your UI, all the reactivity, HTML, and then you have the controller who is going to receive the information and provide to the UI and how should be mapped. Okay. Okay. Thanks joining to the live and we'll see you in next time. And happy coding.